I'm Lisa March, President and founder of Partner in Publishing. Welcome to EdTech Elevated, a PIP-powered podcast where we'll be discussing the latest trends and groundbreaking ideas, as well as inspiring stories that are shaping the future of educational technology. Join us as we explore the EdTech landscape, dive deep into conversations that are transforming the face of education. Get ready to elevate your understanding of how technology is driving change in education, right here on EdTech Elevated. Hi, I'm Lisa March, and this is EdTech Elevated. And today I'm here with Jonathan Abrams, our Managing Director and Senior Search Partner at Partner in Publishing. Jonathan, so great to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
All the way from Toronto.
That's the big flight in, smooth, no issues.
Awesome. And we were just reminiscing 7 years you've been here at Partner in Publishing.
Like it's been a blip, honestly. But yeah, outstanding time here and really enjoyed building out this whole search practice.
And listen, you are the best person to head up this service for us because you have a long history in the EdTech space. You were in what we would call traditional publishing at the time.
I was.
And our core business focuses on the education space. And now with the role that you're in, you're helping our partners find top talent and really organize their businesses in ways that allow them to scale and grow with the right people in the right place at the right time. So I today would love to talk to you about what you're seeing in the space because times have changed.
Times have changed.
So tell us, what are you seeing in our space today, especially as it relates to the challenges that our partners are having in growing their business and hiring talent?
Yeah, it's a really interesting time. We went through, COVID was sort of a tipping point in some ways. Initially sort of a negative impact, but what happened was, government saw the need to sort of pour money into digital education, remote education. So there were a number of companies who were able to benefit significantly from that. And, with ESSER funding on the K-12 side, a lot of companies were able to access funds in a fairly straightforward way. Now what we're seeing is a shift. Funding is running out. So companies that were, I would say had a nice to have product, they are sort of in a position where they're having to cut back because those funds are no longer available. So if you're going to really make a mark now, your company needs to have a mission critical solution, whether it's higher ed or K-12, to really grow their business. And if you don't, then you're probably going to be reducing staff. So we're trying to work with companies that are, looking to build something out that is real and true, because otherwise they're going to be struggling to really make things work for themselves.
I totally agree. We see that on the sales and marketing side of the agency also. And earlier we were talking about the companies that are going to survive this real kind of dry spell. And EdTech are going to be the ones that truly have a value proposition that resonates with our clients, solve problems, and you said are mission critical to student success. Wondering also, there's so many talented people that have been impacted by the cutbacks and the layoffs. How do you think recruiting can help both candidates and partners?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, on the candidate side, when I'm talking to someone who's recently been laid off, very talented, but just got caught in a numbers game, which unfortunately is, happening at a level that we haven't seen in the last couple of years, I tell them to talk about their story, and what's their story? What have they done to impact their role? Sometimes candidates fall back on these were my key responsibilities. This is how I functioned. That doesn't resonate with a hiring team. They need to say, well, I grew the business this much over this amount of time. These are initiatives that I launched during my time at the company. So we really want to set up candidates for success in telling that story that really engages and brings in a hiring team to say, this is a person that we want within the organization. In terms of the actual client, we talk about velocity in the process. So if you're going to start bringing in talent, that process of hiring the right people at the right time needs to be a tight process, because really good candidates, they're going to be in multiple hiring interviews with a bunch of different companies, and in the end may have a choice of where they want to land. If you don't move that candidate through with some expedited force, they're going to be left not having that person in play. So we really talk about velocity a lot with our clients to say, get these people through quickly if you like them, because they will not be there at the end if you don't.
Makes a lot of sense. Good candidates will find great places to work, and being slow in the hiring process, I can imagine, impacts their ability to get the best person for the job.
Absolutely.
Boost your company's digital presence with Partner in Publishing. We leverage proven strategies to expand your reach and increase sales. Whether you're a startup or an established business, we tailor our digital marketing strategies to meet your specific needs. From search engine optimization and high conversion digital ads to organic social media and targeted email marketing, we employ essential marketing strategies to achieve your mission and deliver impactful results. Partner with us to meet and exceed your sales and marketing goals and stand out in the education sector. Learn more at partnerinpublishing.com.
Now, tell us a little bit more about the roles that you specialize in placing. I know you've placed hundreds of candidates over our time together working, at least in this side of the business. And you are, again, especially skilled. You were a high-level sales manager. Were a sales rep we talked about last night, way back when. So you know what the job is, you know the functions and the roles required in many of these businesses. So tell me, what are the range of positions that you're placing and that you've placed over the years?
Yeah, I mean, we've really placed all levels. I mean, we've placed C-level. We've obviously placed, account executives and customer success level people. I would say our sweet spot is probably the director level up to SVP. Like that's probably where we play most, and we're able to really add tremendous value. We have great networks in those areas. We're able to bring in candidates quickly that are interested. And the fact of the matter is the stories that you can tell about the company for those roles are always pretty compelling. So we're able to bring those quality candidates in by telling that recruiting story, which is, a big part of what we do with our clients is tell their story. I'm talking a lot about storytelling, but it really is a lot of what we do. So if we're working with an up and coming ed tech that doesn't have a brand recognition that others might, then you have to sort of make it enticing for a high quality candidate to say, that's an interesting option for me. I hadn't thought about that. They seem like they're doing some really interesting things. I want to enter a process.
And that is hard work. We were also talking about the funding in the last 5 to 7 years, the influx of funding for startups or companies that are looking to scale. And now with the impact of ESSER funds drying up and COVID and these platforms and services that were purchased by schools and institutions that maybe were not used to their full potential, it can be scary for a great candidate when they are potentially interviewing with a company that they've not heard of.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the level of due diligence that you're seeing high quality candidates do relative to the companies that they're talking to is at an extremely high level. I mean, they're not going to make a move unless it completely makes sense for them. It's been pretty remarkable. And we're also seeing sort of a little bit of a snapback to more traditional companies. So the big salary and the options and the equity is appealing, but there's also appeal to a company that's been around for 40 years and has a very straight line in terms of growth and treat their employees, extremely well, have great benefits. Those things are starting to matter in some ways again. So we're seeing a lot of interest in companies that are highly established.
It makes sense. So few of these startups, you really don't get to see the transaction and the conversion of your options. You just may not get there. We talked about the scalability of these pre-revenue companies and the hockey stick. And at this point, I think we're just seeing the stick. We're seeing a lot of companies that were parts of mergers and acquisitions. Companies are making decisions, big companies that have acquired smaller startups are making decisions very fast to either grow or no go. So it is scary for someone who is top talent in a good position to take a chance and a risk, because historically we haven't really seen a lot of those turn out the way we thought they might.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's as I said, it's been a very interesting sort of 36 months on the sort of recruiting side, and you've seen definitely a transition to just a high level of due diligence from candidates. And when we're talking to candidates and companies, I always say to the candidate, this is your opportunity to dig into them in terms of your due diligence as much as they are in their hiring process. Like, make sure you're asking the tough questions, because these are big decisions that you're making. And you don't want to be stuck 6 months down the road and realize that the culture wasn't a fit for you, or that the compensation plan was not as lucrative as maybe it was made out to be. So everybody really has to be asking the tough questions in the process.
And that brings me to, it really does help both the employer and the candidate to be working with someone like you. And again, the experience in this space really matters. So talk to us a little bit about how you facilitate that connection and ensuring that people land with the right companies, both for the employer and for the candidate, because there is a huge talent pool out there. And sometimes your really great people are at companies 18 months, three years. You can have a long list of experience that you have to explain. So how can you help expedite that process for both parties?
Yeah, I mean, we try to be sort of an additive piece to sort of that velocity that I talked about. So where we really come in are in a number of spots. One is obviously the whole, resume vetting and all that can take companies like hours and hours and hours, tens of hours to get through. Companies are getting hundreds and hundreds of resumes, many completely unqualified for the role, but it doesn't mean they don't have to look at them. So what we want to do is take that burden off their plate, right? So we're going directly to people that we know. So we're basically shrinking that candidate pool to a manageable one. And then we're like doing 1, 2, 3 interviews even before we actually present. So there's a lot of activity that occurs so that when we're presenting someone, they've been extremely well vetted and they know the company, they're going to be asking good questions, they're very clear on everything. So that speeds things up remarkably. And typically we can turn that around in 5 to 7 business days in terms of having quality people in front of the client. The other big piece is, and we talked a little bit about it, is telling that story. For a company that doesn't have that sort of name brand, why are they appealing? Because people will not naturally sort of gravitate towards them through an application. So we want to tell that story, and we love doing that. We go deep into the culture of the company when we're doing sort of pre-discussion on the role, really understanding how they work. That is critical.
And it's been fun to watch you put together these creative solutions for clients. Example, small to medium size and even larger companies may not have a dedicated person for recruiting. And while HR can be helpful in that function, they have so many things that they're doing. And so really being a recruiter or an advisor on talent management matters. So there's so much involved, and it's not just finding someone on LinkedIn and getting a resume. So what are some of the creative options that you have seen companies employ in working with you to leverage your expertise, your massive network, and just your knowledge of the skills needed for these jobs?
Yeah. So recently we had the opportunity to work with one of our clients in a fractional relationship. So we became very embedded into the company. We were involved in all the meetings, discussion around compensation, whatever the role was, we had a very much an inside view on things. And we also did things that an internal recruiter might do. So we had direct access to their applicant tracking system. We were setting up meetings. So we were really, once again, taking the burden off of them. And to your point, they don't have a large HR department that they can sort of insource this to and have them run. They needed us to basically help them get through that. So we were with them for like 6 months. They scaled quickly, and it really works for companies that are looking to bring on 10, 15, 20 people across a number of different functions to make that effective. And we basically embed ourselves. We're on retainer on a monthly basis on that basis. We work a little bit differently in terms of how our fees work, but it really gives us a lens inside the organization that we don't typically get, and we loved it.
That sounds like a really great solution for all parties involved. You have some continuity in understanding their needs, the profiles that best fit their culture, which also matter. It's so interesting. One of the things that I see so much, and I think coming out of COVID, is the work-life balance piece. And we all would like to have work-life balance. But the truth is, this is hard. Being in our fields of sales, marketing, talent management, it is not 9 to 5. And how are candidates responding to the fact that now companies are back to the office? You need to produce results. You need to be less task-based and more results-driven. How is that impacting their ability to have conversations and get these better jobs?
So it's interesting. We always tell both client and candidate to be as transparent as you possibly can be about what's going to be important to you beyond sort of the rigors of the role. And you're talking about, a very sort of hot area, which is the work-life balance. I've had a company tell me that if a candidate mentions work-life balance in an interview, they will just not actually proceed with them. Not because they may not be qualified, but culturally they won't be a fit into the organization. And that matters so much. There are companies that still value that. And if that's important, then a candidate will feel connected to that reality. So we really try to make sure that there's just a tremendous amount of transparency in the process. I think that's really the key. There's still a range of what companies feel an employee should be delivering beyond hours, if you will. So just understanding where that line is fundamentally critical. Because once again, if you don't, and you've kind of lied your way through an interview and said, oh yeah, I have no problem working beyond hours, but you really do, you'll likely want to leave that company, or they'll want you to leave within 3 months.
Yeah, it really is a hot topic. And particularly for young people starting in their career, there's no easy way to get to the top. And so I really think there are mixed reviews on counseling young professionals on what it really is going to take, because everybody wants to get promoted and have more responsibilities. But we're in an environment and in a day and age where you've got to prove yourself, and everything's data driven. So stories are great, but you've got to be able to prove your results. And I can tell you from experience that it's not a 9 to 5 job if you want to get to the next level, either in your career or in the development of your company. So those are, I'm sure, things that you've got to really tease out as you work with both employers and prospective employees.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much, in that vetting process, both with the client in terms of what they're looking for, and then when we start talking to potential candidates for the roles, we want to do a lot of work on the front end so that there are no surprises for anybody in the process, right? That is the value that we will bring, is that ideally in the end, everybody's been on the same page. And we've really much act as coach in the process. I'll talk to candidates a lot about how is it going, and have you articulated this, and make sure you understand that this is where the company is coming from. And same thing with the client. Do you understand the candidates in this position right now, or they're interviewing here? We really want to make sure that we're helping to manage expectation and flow so that everything in the end is aligned. Because the alignment is critical. If there is misalignment in the end, then everybody's kind of going to lose.
No, agree. And you really need to protect your brand, both as an employee and as an employer. It's funny, we spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, part of our business, and you do see candidates really frustrated with the communication process with employers. And you can see employers are busy, but candidates want answers. And so working, I would imagine, with a recruiter helps you keep the lines of communication open and everybody knows where you are in the process. And as you said, you can encourage the velocity to be kind to candidates who need to move on and find other opportunities, because we see these processes take so long, and that's got to be bad for both parties involved.
It's my biggest pet peeve, on both sides. If there's a company that for whatever reason has created a rather arduous process, they bring in people into the interview process who may not be critical, but they want opinion from people who, once again, may not be directly impacted by the candidate. And if that adds 2 to 3 weeks to the process in terms of scheduling, they're really shooting themselves in the foot. I mean, it's going to come back to bite them. And we've had some companies that have literally taken months to get people through a process. It simply won't work in the end. I mean, and to your point about brand, candidates will start to talk. And they'll say, well, I was interviewing with this company and it took them 6 months. And then they kind of ghosted me. It's not acceptable.
No, agree. I mean, I think you can be kind and honest as you're going through the process, and being able to communicate that to someone who can get the information to the candidate quickly matters.
Are you ready to elevate your brand and captivate your audience? At Partner in Publishing, our video marketing services are all about turning your ideas into captivating visual narratives. Whether it's a compelling promotional video, engaging social media content, or informative tutorials, we've got you covered. Our expert team works closely with you to create videos that not only look amazing, but also drive results. Don't just be seen, be remembered. Visit partnerinpublishing.com today and discover how we can help you outshine the competition.
So I'll end on this note. I am super excited to be working and collaborating with you and having the service be available to our partners. And I think one of the big differentiators for us is that we are only recruiting in this space. So what would you say to companies who are looking at a broad range of recruiters, and maybe the cost of the service is what is most important to them? In the end, what does it really cost you if you don't know the industry, you don't have a network in that specific industry, or you don't even know the roles of the job and what they entail? How does that help our clients?
Yeah, we really position ourselves as, and it sounds very cliche, as consultants, in the process. So we'll provide insight into where the market is for a particular position. Are the salary levels that you're, putting into play, are they appropriate? Are they too light? Maybe they're even too heavy in terms of the kind of candidates you're looking for. So we really want to position ourselves as a core resource in the process, not just a throwing candidates up against a wall and hopefully a couple will stick. We take a very active approach in that regard. And I think also, all the experience that we have is extremely valuable. We understand the texture of the market in a way that probably other recruiters don't. And that means a lot. And we really want to be, very much part of the solution in the end to what they're doing. We thrive on long-term relationships. We want people coming back to us, obviously, again and again. We kind of position it this way. We're contingency based, meaning typically, you don't pay unless we place. But we take a retained search approach. We really want to vet that candidate deeply. So in the end, we'll probably put 3 to 5 people in front of you as opposed to 15, but we're guaranteeing that 3 to 5 are going to be spot on for you. And hopefully we'll get you the person that you want in the role.
And I will end on this note. I have been the beneficiary of all the great relationships that you have cemented in the industry because people do land in great roles, and then they come back and work with us on the other side of the house for services. Sometimes our competition, if we have any, will say that we have lots of services and we don't actually focus on any one. I truly see that as a benefit because we get to really get a perch into the landscape of all things EdTech. Talent, sales, marketing, customer success, market research, and all of these things are really tied together. And we communicate as a team that will exchange information, and we're all leveraging each other's expertise and knowledge to get the job done. And so there are lots of happy people that you have placed, and lots of great companies that have benefited from your expertise in giving them top talent. And then we get to work with them on the other side. It's been an amazing investment for us in building this side of the business. And I'm excited for the future. There's so much change. And I think you're in a great spot to help both our agency and our clients succeed. So thank you.
I appreciate that. No, and I'll just end with this. I mean, we're able to leverage the broad base of services that we have as recruiters because it makes us very unique in the market. If they have an issue on a temp basis where they need, seasonal support, we can talk about how we're able to come in and do that. The reality is not every recruiter can have that conversation. So we feel empowered to have the suite of services that we do to bring to our clients for sure.
Well, thank you. I appreciate all you do for us every day. And it is my lucky 7. It's your anniversary with us
7.
Here at PIP. So thank you. Thank you for everything. And thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of EdTech Elevated, powered by Partner in Publishing. We hope you found today's episode inspiring and informative. Don't forget to subscribe and stay connected for more insightful conversations with EdTech leaders and innovators. Until next time, follow us on social to keep up with the latest trends in the world of EdTech. I'm Lisa March, and this is EdTech Elevated.